episode of my Warhammer Conquest review series. This episode, as always, we'll be reviewing issue 39. I say as always, we don't always review issue 39, but as always, we're reviewing the same issue as the episode number. Got a really good one this week. We have the Primaris Captain, which is cool. Or Lieutenant, depending on how you want to designate him. Just open that up. This guy is different from the previous Captain we got, in that he doesn't come with Gravis power armor. He comes in standard Mark 10 armor. He has a cape because capes. This one isn't built in, so that's cool. You don't have to stick the cape on him. I don't mind capes, but I'm not entirely sure what purpose they serve in the 41st millennium. They're not going to keep him warm. If you don't, you might want to consider green stuffing something on the back, because he's got crotch flap on the front. As you can see, some fantastic, let's get my hand behind this so the focus comes in. Some fantastic quality plastics, as always, from GW. Yeah. A slight difference in the north is you've got a multi-part gun. This gun, in that gap there, sits the magazine and the and the scope. I'm not entirely sure why they've done that. I can't see a specific reason why they've cut the model there, but they have. You've got the two alternative heads and the plume or scrubbing brush, depending on what you think of it, to go on there. So again, you don't have to put it on, but you'd have to filler in the gap. Or if you're using, for example, Space Wolves, you could try and trim a mohawk to get something sort of looser and more Space Wolf looking there. If you don't want to, have an Ultramarine style a plume, that is. He's standing on what looks like a little bit of Imperial architecture. Makes a difference from the tactical rock. Sorry, I've just got something in my eyes. There we go. And it's another one of the models where we have one of the greaves separate. You've got that, and then that sits on the leg there. Again, not sure why some of these modelling decisions have been done the way they have. Actually, both the greaves are... What was the second greave? Oh, there's the second greave. Yeah, both of them, you've got the greaves, pauldrons, greaves. You've got the leg encasing done as a separate thing. This has been done by GW a couple of times, and I really don't see why. It seems like an extra step. I didn't really sort of note it the previous times, but this time I'm just pointing out because, again, the model will look fantastic. I'm just not sure why you've got these few additional steps. I'm getting on the easy to build models. I do find myself wondering maybe they don't come on the more multi-part kits. I very rarely buy character kits myself. I much prefer to really personalise and customise my characters. Hold over from previous editions of 40k where you had a lot more options available. I'm not, and again, yeah, like I say, I'm not entirely sure why you get all the extras. I mean, you've got the skull, but that tends to be Terminator on us. That goes on any chapter. You've got the laurels, and again, they go on most chapters. But maybe there are alternate leggings for Space Wolves or something you get in the multi-part kits. Oh, and as always, the base. Don't forget the base. It's important. Random thing, if you do lose bases, check out the internet. There are a lot of guys that sell separate bases. Troll Trader do laser cut ones. But you can pick them up. You can pick up just basic flat bases for pennies from various suppliers. In addition to that, you can get the really nice ones. Micro Arts do some fantastic sculpted bases. Stonehall Miniatures, if you've got the base but you want to pick something that goes on lots of things, Stonehall Miniatures do a bunch of things called base toppers, which is just like a 2mm bit that just sits on top of your base. they're kind of cool because you can use them for multiple different types of bases. If you play different games with lipped bases or anything like that, the topples will fit to anything, so you can have loads of cool stuff and still be sure of being able to use your bases. They're fairly cool. Let's get to our spiritual liege, Ian. Again, signed it. One day I'm going to look up it and double check who exactly Ian is. It probably says here somewhere, but can't see it. But here we go. All the stuff's going to be inside this issue. We've got initially Captain Sicarus. Now this guy looks reasonably similar to the model we're getting, but isn't the model we're getting, so I don't think you could potentially try and blag this off as Captain Sicarus. He does have he does have the eagle on the shoulder pad and things like that, the Aquila, which is very cool. He's got a little circular bit there on that shoulder pad, so you can put the transfer in or the transfer on. Bear me a second. Right, just checking on the kid there. Noisy as hell. It goes to a lot on Cato Sicarus or Captain Sicarius. Cato Sicarius. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that. Feel free to let me know in the comments. One of the greatest heroes of the Ultramarines, as once captain of the Second Company. Centuries of loyal service have earned Captain Sicarus many titles, including his position as Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of Macragge, and Commander of the Victrix Guard. Isn't that nice? War gear, he's got a plasma pistol, the mantle of Suzerain, and the Talisarian Tempest blade. So, a pistol, some armour, and a good sword. Notable battles, Damnos and Blackreach. So, if you bought the Blackreach set, apparently this was the hero of the Blackreach set. It goes on to tell you about Captain Sicarus and who he is. Born into a noble family, etc., which is nice. Then gave it all up to become a Space Marine, which is even nicer. It goes through here and shows you some. It shows you some cool stuff. Armor plate of Aura, artifact of the Heresy, golden Aquila of the Duke of Talisar, which is cool, I guess. Then you got icon symbols and that. This guy is very much a standard Marine. I don't know if he's been given the Primaris treatment, but it doesn't say so. It gives you a bit more about the captain. Again, fantastic artwork. He's got one of the sideways plumes. It's worth noting the Ultramarines take very much after the Romans, so their plumes go on sideways because Roman plumes went on sideways. It was Greek plumes that went back to front, and Roman plumes went side to side. The reason for this was so that you could see who the commanders were when you were looking back on the battlefield and looking forward, and when they were facing you. Whereas the Greek plumes were much more to make your warriors just look taller. The bigger plume kind of gave the impression that your guys were bigger. That and the big metal breastplates often carved into muscles and often stuff like that. If you've watched the 300, it's a fantastic movie, but a complete lie. The Spartans did not fight in loincloths. They were armoured in Bronze Age armour. On their shins, on their wrists, and on their chests. One of the reasons they were able to win was because when you stabbed them, it went plink, as opposed to going kashlib. That's my noise of somebody getting stabbed. Nope, my brain just failed there. Unlike Saruman, who put on Lord of the Rings, I have to imagine what someone being stabbed was, because I've never heard it. Next, we've got Rotigus Rainfather. This is another background piece telling you about this particular cool demon. He's the ultimate example of Nurgle's generosity. He answers the prayer of the desperate, promising to fulfill their wishes for aid. Unfortunately, for those who accept his help, the Rainfather always delivers on his promise. So a bit of a Faustian deal there. You get what you want, but there's a massive cost. It's worth noting that is one of the big things about Nurgle. Of the 4 Chaos Gods, most of them are slightly indifferent to their worshippers in the same way you or I might be indifferent to food animals. I'm a vegetarian, so yeah. But even when I ate meat, he was like, rabbits are alright, they're cute, but you still eat them. Zench considers them pieces. Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows. And Slaanesh is all about the pleasure, even if it kills you. And doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that 1,000 people have to die for you to have an ounce of pleasure. That's just their job, to die for your pleasure. Whereas Nurgle actually has affection for his followers. He wants them to live, to grow up, to be strong, and then to eat them. Yeah, very much like rabbits. He finds them cute. He finds them cuddly. He considers them his adorable little pets, and then will cook them. He's one of the nicer Chaos Gods to work for if you want a Chaos God that cares for you. But also, you will become a blotted, roted, infected, disease creature, just the way it is. So that's quite weird and cool. It goes on to explain more about Roticus and what he is. And it explains that weird little twig in his hand. It's a branch from the hornbeam tree. Of all the plants in Nurgle's garden, the hornbeam is the plague god's favourite. This rod is a symbol of his favour and is rich in regenerative magic. Again, Nurgle's a gardener. Nurgle's a petter of animals and creatures. Yeah, he's the god of disease, but the disease, disease is very much a form of life. All these bacteria, all these plagues, they're all living things. He kind of considers humanity to be a disease on the galaxy, and kind of likes humanity in that way. He's a very pleasant god if you don't mind your entrails becoming your extrails, and your guts falling out of your stomach, and your brain melting out of your nose, and but he still loves you. Oh, that's pretty cool. We've got the Age of Mankind. We've got a massive, great door there. That's supposedly the door to the Emperor's Chambers, and supposedly these are ranks upon ranks of custodians who just stand there the whole time. With the, fortunately, I think they're wearing clothes. The custodians that go inside the Emperor's Chamber, completely naked, at all times. It's a thing. You see the text-to-speech device, and you've got the guy in armour. Most custodians don't wear clothes because they're hench enough without the clothes to kill most space marines without their power armour. And the idea is that no one can disguise themselves as custodians because you can see every inch of them. Let's go through the Ages of Mankind. Maxie. I think he's going to the toilet. Maxie. Yeah. This goes through to explain the Ages of Mankind and all bits and various bits and pieces that have happened throughout mankind. The Age of Terror, the Dark Age of technology, and that. Does it go on further? And then we've got a little bit here on. Should I pause it? Right, sorry about that. Next bit they've got the battle fleets of the Adeptus Astartes. Sorry. The battle fleet of the Adeptus Astartes, which basically goes on about the Imperial strike cruise, the Space Marine strike cruisers, the Space Marine battleships, and all the various ships, because they have their own unique fleets, and their ships are much more powerful than the Imperial ships, pound for pound. Their ships are usually smaller because they're designed around the needs of the Space Marines. They're designed to transport 10, 20, 100 Space Marines, and so on and so forth. Each company usually has its own sort of warship which can carry the whole company, and then it usually has a couple of smaller strike cruisers which will then support it, or deliver or carry around smaller groups of Space Marines. But they're much more powerful for their size than Imperial ships. They usually have a couple of sort of standard Imperial frigates and smaller ships with them, which are usually manned by humans, but for the most part, their ships are smaller and much more powerful. My lad's having a bit of trouble. Their ships are smaller and much more powerful than their Imperial naval equivalents. It also goes on to describe the Phalanx in there, which is the biggest Space Marine ship that you'll find in any Space Marine fleet. That's part of the Imperial Fist's Fortress Monastery ship. Worth noting, though, it said whilst it is the biggest ship, it's not. There are larger vessels in fleets. The Rock, which is the Dark Angel's kind of Fortress Monastery space station, is a mobile spacefaring thing, and is bigger, but it's more like a mobile meteor or a mobile asteroid. It's massive, but it's part of the remaining. Sorry, it's the remnants of Caliban. So it's it's a chunk left over from their exploded homeworld. And if you read the Soul Drinkers thing, that chapter, which is a renegade chapter, moves around in a giant space hulk called the Brokeback, and that's basically a load of big ships just melded together. That has the ability to move through space because it has enough ship engines and warp engines that it can manage it. But none of those are proper ships, so the Phalanx is still technically the largest ship. So that's pretty cool. Battle barge can launch hundreds of Space Marines in mere minutes. Yeah, that's it. You have the strike cruisers and their large ships called the battle barges. That pretty much reflects the fact that they're not warships or fighting ships. They're actually massive troop transports. It's just that because the Space Marines have access to all the best technology, their troop transports are as good as Imperial warships. In addition to that, the Imperium could invest that amount of time, that amount of skill, that amount of money in its own ships, but they take hundreds of years to build anyway, and the Imperium often relies on numbers, so spreading its weaponry around and having more of them often helps. You do have a few mega ships as well, and that's pretty cool, but Space Marine ships and better. Here we've got how to build the Primaris Captain. Details of how to put him together. Oh, I see. Do we have both those parts? It's just giving me an explanation as to... There we go. It has a nice explanation as to why this bit goes in, and my finger was covering the explanation. That's why I didn't see it. You can choose to equip him with a bolt stalker, which is the long range one, or an auto bolt rifle. So basically you get smaller magazine... Oh, sorry. Let's see if I can... Yeah. Smaller magazine with a scope, or larger magazine with greater capacity, and it gives you the option to equip the captain in one of two ways, which is a lot easier than the way I end up usually doing it, which is cutting off a weapon and then gluing another weapon on. That being said, I have a lot of fun doing conversions, so it's not going to bother me either way. So that's pretty cool. So you can see there, you get the two options, and each one gives you a variant, so you can choose to equip the captain in either way. It's got the painting guide there, which is explaining to you how to paint the captain. That looks really cool. I think what I might do is I might hold off on painting this guy and see if I can paint him with the new GW paints when they come out. They've got these new contrast paints, and the idea is they're a combination of a base coat and a wash. So instead of going, I base coat the thing, then I wash the thing, then I dry brush the thing, it's just a base coat, wash the thing, and it removes a step. It's really cool. It's basically GW seem to have listened to the public and their customers, and their customers' biggest problem has always been, we don't have enough time to paint all the models we want to buy, and we're not buying any models until we paint them. So GW have gone, here, you can paint models quicker, so you can buy more models. It's one of those, it's a great example. It's how it's supposed to work. The idea is they come up with a solution that benefits you so that you can then give them more money. It's a win-win situation. It won't make the paints you get in this set irrelevant. It'll just be a different set of paints if you want to buy them. And being as they've given you paints and washes, you don't have to. You can keep doing it the way they suggest in here. There's no need to use the new ones, particularly because in this one, most of you guys are probably going to be painting it bit by bit as you get it. I haven't been doing that. That's because I've been painting other projects instead. That, and I'm going to make this a project for myself of doing the lot. My plan is to repaint my entire army, all in the new paints and see how cool it looks. But goes through there and there. Oh, sorry. There you're adding the gold. There you're adding the Abaddon black and all the bits and pieces and the red. Then it's going to go through the shading and what you need to do there. As you can see, when you get all the paints, there are a lot of steps, which is why the new shading paints are coming out to help decrease those steps. You know, with the new shading paints, in theory, you'll just lose a whole page out of that. Whether or not you want to do that's another matter. A lot of us have spent years learning how to shade, how to wash, how to dry brush, and we know a lot of tricks for getting the best out of it. I don't know how those will work with the new paints. And replacing your entire paint section, doing it one paint by a time is not going to be too expensive. I hear rumours that GW may be upping the prices to account for these new paints. I don't know. Even so, I shouldn't imagine it's going to be unaffordably expensive, one paint at a time. But whether or not they up the price, if you need to replace your whole range or a significant chunk, you know, the whole range of, I think the GW Mega range is nearing £500 every single paint and thing they do. It might be cheapened out because you won't need to buy washes anymore. But the other thing you remember is if you're using the paint and then the wash, I don't know whether this new paint's going to be twice as much. It's going to do the job of two paints. I don't know whether you're going to need just that one paint pot, or whether the fact that it's doing the job of two paints means you're going to need to use twice as much of it over the paints. Some of them I say, you know, some of the things I said is you use one thicker coat, which may mean that you end up using twice as much of it. So again, whether or not it saves there, or whether or not replacing them is going to be cheaper because you don't have to buy washes, so that whole swatch of paints is now something you don't need to replace financially. But you know, that's worth looking. That's worth considering that later. But you can still very much use all the paints here. They're still just as good and provide just as good results as they always have. Next, we've got the Seize the Beacons. Another mission for using the cool things we got last week, I hope. No, we're still using the old ones. Oh well. You've got a bunch of beacons that you have to protect. Do they give you any tokens for this? Is there anything? I guess you'll have to use. You have to possibly use the barrels or something. It doesn't suggest, but this one is another sort of Seize the Beacon things. These missions are really, really good. A lot of people play what we call Total Annihilation battles, or Dawn of War, or whatever they're called now. Basically, a lot of people play to the utter destruction of the entire enemy, and whoever kills everyone first wins. Some people play in rounds where they go, okay, we're going to play turns. We're going to play a 4-turn to a 6-turn battle. Whoever's destroyed the most by that time wins. These missions work better. They're much better balanced. Particularly because you can choose various missions that work better or are better balanced for different armies. If you keep playing Annihilation, certain armies are better at Total Annihilation than other armies. And a lot of people think, oh, these armies are broken because whenever I play my 40k games, they always win. But then they always play the same type of mission, which is almost always Total Annihilation. Let's put everything we've got on the board and blow everything up. It's fun and it's beautifully simple in its ideology, but that's not realistically necessarily how you win battles, and that's not the way the game is entirely designed to be played. Eldar, for example, for something like Seize the Beacons, Eldar and Dark Eldar are very fast. They're going to be able to get across the board much more quickly. They're going to be able to get their troops across the board to try and secure areas. Nids are a lot of them, so they can afford to spread themselves out a bit more and things like that. Whereas Total Annihilation, Imperial Guard are amazing because they just deal so much firepower, but they rely on not being able to be destroyed. Whereas if they try and spread themselves across, you can focus your troops on some of their troops and ignore others, and then basically go, I'm going to take 3 out of the 5 beacons and let you have the other 2 to achieve victory and things like that. So, you know, the missions really, really do add a new dynamic to the game, or if you've just been playing Total Annihilation, and they are one of the key balancing mechanisms. And I'm not just talking the missions in here, the missions in the main rulebook and the expansions, they are all important to the game. None of them will be perfectly balanced for every army. So the best thing to do is try and discuss with your opponent and pick missions that offer reasonably equal opportunities to the armies that you're playing. Otherwise, you are just going to have boring games where you always win and he always loses. Some armies are better than others. Unfortunately, nothing's going to change that. Perfect balance is near impossible. GW have never been able to do it. Neither have any other company that I'm aware of. I played Corvus Belli's games. I played Weird Miniatures games. I played Privateer Press games. I played Kings of War by Mantic. I played Fantasy Flight games, which are by the same company as Modius. I played Wizards of the Coast games. I played Pokemon games. I have yet to encounter a game that has achieved perfect balance, and often, to be honest, I've not really encountered games that have got that close. Some of my favourite games are the game, I do play Corvus Belli's Infinity. Those are games where if you play them right, there is some fairly close balance, but even they're not perfect. There is no perfectly balanced game. Certain missions in certain games are better than others. Certain missions are a great combination between two, and you'll get certain missions where you think, this mission against that enemy, I might as well pack my stuff up and go home because that enemy is built for this mission and my guys are the absolute worst. Even there's a game called Blood Bowl that I play. Certain matchups just don't work because some guys are just almost designed to wipe the floors with other teams. It's just something you have to work with your opponent to find a reasonable balance and get a game that is fun. So use these. They are fun. You can modify them for bigger forces, and they really will help your game. I can't stress enough that playing to mission rather than playing to destroy everything is the way to go. This is a cool mission. You're using Foul Blightspawn, 12 Toxic Walkers, Tainted Cohort, Mephitic Blighthauler, and 5 Plague Marines against Primaris Chaplain, Primaris Captain, 5 Intercessors, 3 Aggressors, and 3 Hellblasters. So you've got a reasonably solid force there. A good amount to play with. You've got your deployment, which is end-to-end deployment, and you've got a lot of cool stuff. On the back here, you can see again we've got the Primaris Captain, and again this is blanked on the back so that you can put it into your mini codex, which should at this point have quite a few bits and pieces in. Next season, we're going to be using the new battle map that we got in the next issue. We're going to be using the new battle map that we got in the last issue. By the looks of it, you got Battle for Kalon. There's a lot of scenery there that you don't yet have, but this scenery is, I believe, coming in future episodes. As I pointed out when we got this battle mat, it doesn't fit with the battle mat you previously got, but it is the same size. So there's no reason you can't stick them together to make a double-sized battle mat and have some fun with that. Basically you're moving to the next planet, Kalon. It welcomes you there. Oh, here they are. I did wonder, as I said, you've got these transmitters there. I didn't know if they'd given you any tokens. They're on the back page because the back page doesn't have any actual necessary content. The back page usually just sells you what's coming next or encourages you to subscribe, and then you've got what's happening next week. And when you've got the whole collection, you don't need to know what's happening next week because you'll have the whole collection. So there's no reason why you can't carefully cut those out. They're not the size of the larger bases, but if you've got smaller bases, you can cut them out, or you can just, for example, I've got these things which I cut out of something else I was making out of chalkboard, and I'm going to be sticking different counters on those, but you can use those to just give yourself more solid counters. After all, this is just flimsy paper, and those counters will just get torn and broken, over time, or bent or crumpled. So stick them on something a little hard like a base, and if you've got spare ones, and you'll be cool. Right, now for the part that I know a lot of you like. What's coming up? As we know, next week we've got Liberator Gold, Wild Rider Red, and Stormhost Silver. For my money, one of the better golds out there. I do like Stormhost Silver, but there are a lot of silvers out there that are fantastic. Liberator Gold, it's just really a popping like gold. It just really, it's just really good for bringing out some of the lighter bits of gold. In addition to that, you're going to have it's going to have a bit on Demon Princes. It's going to have a bit on the history of Ultramar, which we've had a lot on so far. If you're not an Ultramarine fan, then yeah. And these are really a highlighting sort of thing. So it's going to have highlighting and how to add yet another layer of coolness to all the guys you've just done. After that, something really cool. The Plague Burst, the Plague Burst Crawler. It's basically a mortar. It's one of the first sort of artillery pieces. It is also a battle tank. It's got multiple weapons, but its main job is to stay behind enemy lines and shell you, or behind your lines and shell the enemy. So that is really, really cool. So we're going to see about that. Obviously, tune in for both. But if you're a fan of the Death Guard, remember that will be getting given away. And there will be a competition for that in episode 41. I'm just going to pause the video for a second while I just get the results for this week's competition. Hey guys, rolled dice on the comments, and it's looks like another YouTube channel's won this one, which is cool. Basic miniature painting. You get this. I'll PM you and post this off to you guys, and if you can mention my channel when you paint it, that'd be great. If you paint it, and I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week when we'll be reviewing issue 40 with some paints. Have a nice day, guys. Bye. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.